The Arii Ghost Box, coming up next on Monster Hobbies. Let's build it! Hello everybody, welcome back to another Monster Hobbies Let's Build It. My name is Trevor Slescu and I'm the owner of Monster Hobbies. Welcome to my basement shop. Down below in the dark cellar. Now anyway, when I did my Monster Hobbies What's in the Box episode of the Ghost Box, I got a lot of people requesting for me to actually build one of these to show you how it works and how it operates, because it is a magical ghost box. It looks like a normal box, and then when you put a coin on it, the skull head comes out and sucks it back into the box. So let's go down to our bench and start with episode number 1, where I'm going to just work on this a little bit, not too much. Alright, let's go down to our bench. Hello everybody, welcome back down to our bench, and tonight I'm going to open the lid on our ghost bank. I'm only going to do one little piece of this because I want to build the suspense. No, actually it's quite late at night and I don't think I want to do too much on the model, because if you're tired you can't do a really excellent job. So tonight we're actually only going to do one piece, but it involves paint, so it's going to be kind of cool when we're done. So without further ado, let's come down to the bench and see how to build this scary bank. And here we are down on the bench with our ghost box. Just going to move the lid out of here for a minute. And the component that I'm going to actually work on tonight is the actuating arm, which of course is this very interesting skull. Woo! So I am going to move the whole box of instructions out of the way, because really all I'm going to do tonight is work on this part here. So to begin with, I'm going to grab my sandpaper block and my hobby knife and these side cutters here. Then we will just zoom the camera down and do a little position work, pardon me. Okay, so here we have our skull head actuator. So we'll just take our clippers and clip it off the parts tree. And it's actually caught on 4 places. And the final one. Okay, so we freed that from the parts tree. Now we don't need our side cutters anymore. Actually, I am going to grab my little file here, and what we will do is carefully file these little sprue points off. Until that's flat. Then I will use the Finder sandpaper on the back of my sandpaper block and just sand that smooth, sand that smooth. Alright. Then here I can use my rougher sandpaper too. Sand that flat and flush. Okay, so we will I'm gonna let you do yours there off camera. And then, now remember, along here there's a seam line. You can feel it, it's rough on your thumb as you're dragging your thumb across this way. So we're gonna just take our hobby knife, do some adzing, as they call it, which is basically scraping. And we'll go along here too. And you want it so that it's got a nice little roll right there. And you can feel it with the edge of your thumb for when you've got it nice and rounded. So what I'll do is, now that that's feeling good, is I'm just going to go around and clean up the rest of this mold here, this nice model part, and I will return in a sec. There's one thing I forgot to mention here before you get too crazy on the cleanup. There's two pins right there and there. Do not sand these or file these off. These little pins are actually what's going to help in catching that coin on the bank when this thing comes out of the box. You know, like that, it's going to catch that coin and pull it in. So if you can sand these off, it's going to have a difficult time trying to get that coin. So keep the sandpaper and that away from these points. Okay, now carry on and sand away. Okay, so I have cleaned off the seam lines along my actuator here, and I'm just going to use some 600 and very lightly sand on here just to help give the plastic a little bit of a tooth on it, so that when I paint it, the paint can cling into the grooves from the sandpaper, and it won't be trying to hold its own on completely smooth plastic. Maybe you could use some 400 on here, would have actually been better. I just grabbed what was lying around in the corners here on my workbench. All right. So yeah, here we go. It's a minute of sanding too long. All right, so we're getting a little bit of the sheen off of it. Do a little bit there. And now this should be about ready for paint. Remember, you want to get the super high gloss off of here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go upstairs and I'm going to wash this off to get rid of all our dust, and then dry it. Make sure to blow off any of the lint from the rag, and then I'll come down and show you how to paint this thing. Welcome back down to the paint bench. And here I've assembled a few colors. These are Citadel paints from the Games Workshop. The first bottle we have here is Xandri Dust, and that is a base color. Then we have a shade. This one is Seraphim Sepia. And then we have a layer number 1, and that is Ushabti Bone. And a layer number 2, which is called Screaming Skull. And I've got a thing of water here and a little plate, porcelain plate, where I mix my paint colors. And of course we have our part that needs to be painted, and I've mounted it on this heavy stand behind the rib here just to hold it. Now from what I can see, oh, and I'm going to use this brush here. So from what I can understand and see of this arm is only going to come out enough to show the vertebrae back here on the skull and the skull head itself. So we don't really need to paint from here back. So we're just going to paint from here forward. So let's start off with the Xandri dust. So the first thing we will do is bring our mixing plate over here, and then we're going to pop the cap on our Xandri dust. And I'm going to jab a bit into the brush here, and then dip it in our water, and then I'm going to mix the water with the paint. This will give it a little more flow. And I'll add a bit more here, because these base colors are a little on the thicker side. So by adding a little water and giving it a flow like this, it'll allow us to have the paint move the way it's supposed to. So I'm going to start here and make sure that I get the Xandri dust color into all the little cracks and crevices. And of course painting here. And I notice a little string there. Okay. So I just paint this as a solid. And blend this all together. Just paint a little under here. Not going to paint into there though. It's unnecessary. Right about now, it'd be great to hear some like music on my radio if YouTube allowed it and didn't say that everything is copyright. Okay. What kind of music would you like to listen to as you do this? Leave your playlist choices in the comments below. Okay. Get a little bit of interaction with you guys. Alright. And I'm going to paint this into the eye sockets as well. Okay, come on. Play Alice Cooper's Welcome to My Nightmare, or something from Rob Zombie, you know. Or you could even play some Fleetwood Mac, haha. Or some kind of millennial music full of woo woo. I don't know. Homeboys make some noise. I don't know. Run DMC singing It's Tricky to Rock a Rhyme. I don't know. Whatever you guys want to listen to. You could listen to classical music. You could listen to Edgar Allan Poe on audio cassette. You know? Okay. Brahms Lullaby. Actually, I think you're probably going to be listening to me overdubbing this with some safety YouTube music, YouTube approved something or other. You know, I'll see what's in the playlist and play it, which you're probably grooving to right now. So as you can see, I didn't use too much of this paint, and yet I've pretty much got this covered. So we will just let this dry off camera. There, see, already this is starting to look like something other than just black plastic. So let's just give this a little bit more here. That's probably good. We'll let it dry. Now that the Xandri dust has dried on our painted skull head, we're actually going to use the next color here, which is a shade. Now this is a very thinned down shade. It's called Seraphim Sepia, and if you can think of like the old black and, or actually before they used to use a sepia tone for photographs, this is much the same kind of color as that sort of thing. And as you can tell, this is a little more like water. So I've got my skull head here from the bank, the International Bank of Skull Heads. Okay, so we will just, let's move the bottle here. Notice I don't have the plate. I'm not going to need it. So, as you can see, this shade goes right into those cracks there. Can you see that? Yeah, there you go. Very nicely, nice flow in there. And this is how it's used. So a little shout out to my friend James here. I know you haven't really used these type of things like this, but this is how they go. So, pretty simple. And well worth the actual investment in these, I find. So, I let this kind of pool into the cracks there, as you can see. Get it into those eye sockets. See, this is flowing out pretty good. This is only one brush full of this. Just make sure you get it in the nose. Try to get some of those bubbles out of there too. Okay, and of course, let's just get a bit of this under here. Okay, now this will take a little longer to dry though, because it's thinner and wetter than the Xandri dust was. So there. Now I'm going to let that dry, and then we will paint on the Ushabti bone. So now we are going to apply our first layer coat of Ushabti bone, and I've got this brush here that I use. The bristles are stiffer than the first brush, and this will help in our dry brushing technique. I'm just shaking my paint here off camera. Okay, so we have our Ushabti bone, and I'm just going to tap the end of the bristles here into the paint so that all the paint is on the end of the brush, and then I'm going to wipe it here until it's just lightly coming off the brush. And let's start here on the vertebrae and just paint it in like this. Now I'm not trying to paint deep into the whole model here, but just to brush it across the top, leaving some of the more the shade in the wash and that sort of thing. Sorry, shade and the base coat to appear. So again, very lightly. I did paint underneath the teeth there, just so that it would come up a bit. Okay. So remember, if you need some more paint, just wipe it into the brush and then wipe it out of the brush. And you see, if you just drag the brush nicely across, you will avoid getting paint into those cracks on the skull head. I'm going to try to keep the same direction on the brush. A little bit hard to paint around the tripod of the camera here. Need to find a better camera angle for this. Okay, and I'm going to go downward here on the face. And what's nice about these layers is that they end up drying fairly quickly. So you can move on to the next layer almost right away. I still need just a little more of this color. Just to bring it down this way. Now the amount of layer that you put on here is entirely up to you. Okay, so there is the bone color for that. So now let's go on and apply the Screaming Skull paint. And now we have our final layer, the Screaming Skull. This is layer number 2. It is lighter than the Ushabti bone. And we'll just open it up here. And again, I'm using the same brush. And same technique. Apply a bit of paint to the end. Just turn this around. And we will work from the vertebrae again. Now with this, I'm not going to go too far down because this lighter color is basically bringing up. So each time we paint, it brings it up a color degree. Now with this, I want to have it so it's like the light, and light hits usually down at different angles, but in this case I want to go straight down. So in order to get this effect, we want to think of where sunlight would hit. So of course it's going to hit primarily on the top. It would come down here and hit on the tops here, on that cheekbone, and on the tops of the teeth. Okay, we have a hot water tank going. Oops. Let's see, I painted it in the wrong direction. We have a hot water tank going, and we have someone emptying the kitchen sink for a nice waterfall sound effect. Alright, anyway. This is what I get for doing this stuff in my basement with the family around. Okay. So there we go. So that is how you want to use that color. And now you can observe the handiwork. Okay. There's one final stage we can do here. This is the Citadel Dry Paints, and this is Praxeti White. So this paint operates a little bit differently. As you can tell, it's pretty thick inside here, and it almost looks like it is a bottle of dead paint, or dried up paint, but really it's not. So again, like we did with the layers, we put a little bit on the end of the brush. Okay. And we now have a piece of paper towel, and we just wipe this out of the brush just so that there's enough in the brush here. I know that kind of sounds strange, but so what we want to do is this will give a little bit more white into the bone, and again, much like the previous layer, we want to just go directly where the sun's gonna hit this the most. Which again is a little off the teeth, up on the nose ridge, and we'll just do a little light bit right on the top of that skull. And there. Now you can see the highlights in there, and it is looking a lot better. Now as for the eyes, we can actually darken these with a bit of a brown paint or something. So let's go down and try that. Actually, before I get into the eyes, I want to redo these cracks because I did get a bit of layer number 2 and some other things in there. So I want to pronounce those a bit better. So I have here this very, very thin brush. It's a pinstriper's brush. It is a, what is this, 18/0. So I'm going to use the Seraphim Sepia again, and very carefully putting this hand here with my elbow on the table, and then bracing this hand on the other table, part of the table, going to just follow the lines here with the Seraphim Sepia. And just redo these cracks here. Being careful not to bring the wash, or the shade, I mean, up onto the actual layer paints, because I don't want to get rid of the detail that I just put in, of course. Alright, and there we go. That restores the cracks. Now, let's move on to those eyes. So in order to get the eyes darker, we have been using Seraphim Sepia shade. I'm going to use Agrath Earthshade in where the eyes are, because this is quite a darker color. As you can tell, the Seraphim Sepia is a little more orange. This is more brown. So I'm going to use this brush. It's a number 2. I could use better brushing here actually, but I don't seem to have one. Okay, so we just put the Agrath Earthshade, the brush into the Agrath Earthshade, just carefully darken the tone. Oops. And we want to bring these little drips that are forming down into here. Just wipe off a little bit off the edge there. Ah, our water tank stopped. So there we have darker eyes. Almost looks like he's wearing sunglasses, but of course once the paint dries it'll look a little more like it should. Could even put some of that Agrath Earthshade into the nose recesses. So I will do that again using the little pinstriper brush. Just want a little more toward the bottom here. And I will carefully put some around the edges of the teeth here, just to make this a little more pronounced. And there it is. And there's our skull sitting on the old purple paper, looking nice. Very nice indeed. And now as it comes out of the coin box, it will do this and drag your coin in. Well, I hope you enjoyed that exciting episode of Monster Hobbies Let's Build It, where I got to show you how to paint up the skull head actuating arm of your ghost bank. So don't forget to tune in to part 2 coming up very soon, maybe next week, where we get to work a little more on the ghost box. And if you like these videos and you wish to help support us in our work, please go to our YouTube homepage. And if you look in the banner, there are some icons there. One of them is a PayPal icon. If you would like to contribute to us so we can continue making these great videos, please click on that PayPal button and it'll guide you to do the rest. And don't forget to check out our monster models at www.monster-hobbies.ca. I'm going to leave a special link down below that will take you right to the Ghost Bank page. So if you want a Ghost Bank, you can check it out. And if not, just check around on the rest of the website. It's pretty cool. And if you would like to see some of our other videos in this Monster Hobbies Let's Build It series, you can check them out here and here. And I also want you to check out our Build a Monster contest from 2016 down here. I'm going to do one every year, and that's the best video I got right now for it. And don't forget to like and subscribe to us right over here and click that notification bell so that every time something comes up, you get to see it firsthand. And until next time, pleasant screams! Ha ha ha!